Hello, I am Tim with Dent Terminator, and you're about to find out why you let people off the hook when you're in an accident. There's a lot going on there, isn't there? You're a nice person, the other person's a nice person, maybe they didn't mean to. Well, we're going to talk about some of the things that affect you and what can influence you in an accident. And so I'm just going to change this real fast to this because we're going to talk about why we let people off the hook often and most times against our own best interests. And of course, for us as a repair facility, we see people do this all the time, and it's not good for them because sometimes the repair costs more than they think, and we'll talk about that. So let's go over here and let's talk about sunk cost fallacy. So you're in an accident, you know you should get the insurance, you should get all those details from them, but you don't do it. And so what's going on? Well, it's sunk cost fallacy. What has that got to do with it? Well, sunk cost is sort of when you don't understand that this thing's going to cost more than you thought, or it has to do with the car. So, for example, you don't realize that your car is in your mind, it's not brand new, and so you don't realize how that affects you. So you're like, well, it's not a brand new car. It's okay. I've got some door dings in it. There were some scratches on the bumper already, those kinds of things. But there's more going on here, isn't it? Sometimes we say the damage is not that bad. Well, why do we say that? Because we're, again, trying to be a nice guy, trying to be nice to the person. They're telling a story. They say, oh, well, I don't, I'll just pay for this. I don't want to have to go through my insurance and all that. Well, okay. We can do that, but we got to get those details. And of course, we got to find out why. But there's a thing about in the sunk cost fallacy that really applies here. There's several aspects to it. Not all of them apply in this failure to get the insurance card in an accident, but unrealistic optimism does. And that's actually when, you're like, well, I think this is not going to be as bad as I thought it was going to be. Again, the car is not that great a shape. Just all those things kind of come into play. So those influences are there, but there's more going on too. It's not just sunk costs. So in other words, your car is worth less than you think or the damage. There's actually another one called the found money fallacy. This one's not talked about quite as much, but it often happens whenever we have a windfall and we don't really know or we don't realize exactly what that windfall is going to bring us. I'll give you an example. Barry Bonds, you might remember, a controversial subject, I know, because of the steroids, but when he was hitting those home runs were worth quite a bit of money, say 2004-ish. And so, of course, the big one was, 100 home runs later, but he was on the track to get the record for the home runs. Well, the fan that caught number 660, he just walked up to Barry and gave it to him. Okay. Well, he got a press junket, he got to do a press release and got his picture taken with Willie Mays and Barry Bonds, but those around those balls that were caught, home run balls, were worth sometimes six figures. And so we think, well, he's just a nice guy. I mean, he did the right thing. Okay, well, you could argue that, but really, what was probably happened because it was the moment, and just like you just got in an accident, the heat of the moment, he's like, well, I'm a good guy, so therefore I would just go give this ball to him. That's what I, as a good guy, would do to give this ball to Barry Bonds. Had the person thought about it, really realized what was in his hands, had he thought about his family, what that money would have meant to his family and things like that. So there's just not time. And so that's what the found money fallacy kind of comes in there. He didn't have it before and the value hasn't sunk in. Well, that kind of works in reverse. If you think about getting in an accident, you haven't realized just how much that accident's going to cost. And so you're thinking, well, it's a couple of $100 or whatever, they'll pay it. It's cool, no problem. Actually, what if it turns out that there's hidden damage and it's like $2,000? Well, that $2,000 is going to go to fix your car, so it's not necessarily money that you're going to get. That's true. But it is money that's going to cost you. So, and it's money that you didn't think you had before. So it's still a found money fallacy in a sense, if you will. And so, again, because it's an accident, it just happened, you don't know the true cost of it or what you're giving up. So understand kind of why you're doing whenever you don't ask the person for their insurance, you've been in an accident, understand why, understand the factors, the influences that are going on, including what what we've talked about so far. So we want to think about, you've been in this accident, you're worried, right? Because you are a good person. And how you want to be perceived as a good person. I know I do. I really do. But at the same time, what does a good person do? Well, a good person gets out and you're kind of mad because you might have gotten hit. It's shocking. Someone hits you from behind or something like that, or they maybe door dinged your car. And you're like, oh, you're kind of mad, but you're thinking, oh, I'm a good person. So let's hold our flow just for a minute and let's be a good person. So what do? You go up to the person, are you okay? Dude, they just hit your car and you're asking if they're okay. That just proves what a good person you are. So you kind of go against and I understand that. I can totally understand that. And then you're influenced by who just hit you. So maybe it's a grandma. I've heard this. It's unbelievable how many times I've heard this, and it's a grandma. Well, okay, but grandma's got insurance, right? And so we need to kind of keep that in mind when we're dealing with this situation. And I like grandma too, but for all we know, you're the fifth person grandma's hit, and somebody's got to do something, including maybe her insurance company's like, hey, we can't cover you no more because grandma's not a good driver. So that comes into play. So we're influenced by who they are, but remember, we're also influenced by what they say, right? So, I don't want this to go on my insurance. I don't want my kids to know, whatever it is. We're influenced by what they say in that heat of the moment. And so that's why we really have to make up our mind. This is what I'm encouraging you in this video to make up your mind now that no matter what, you're going to get those insurance information from them. And again, you're influenced by your own misconceptions, right? So you just don't realize what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And I'm not even saying no one wants to view themselves as I hurt my neck. What do you call that guy? An opportunity seeker or whatever. I hurt my neck. I barely hit you. Okay, well, but you wake up in the morning and your neck does hurt. What then? I'm not saying it would, but all these things about how we identify ourselves and all these things, that's why they're all going to come into play at that time when you get hit in that accident or somebody whacks your door with their door. So that's why you have to decide in advance, because of these misconceptions that happen really in the heat of the moment. You've never been in an accident before, right? Maybe you have, but maybe somebody else was driving and whatever. But if it's brand new to you and you just haven't been through it, so it doesn't make you a bad guy to ask for their insurance. It never does that. And sometimes it's easier, right? So my son got in an accident the other day and he's telling us the story. And if somebody did this to you, I think you'd be like, dude, give me your insurance right now. That's what he did. He said the guy got out, he rear-ended him. And the guy got out and he's like, oh man, I'm so sorry. That was the first thing he said. But you kind of double tapped your brakes there. That's, so he's immediately shifting the blame to the person in front of him whom he has just hit. So you double tapped your brakes there, and if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't hit you. And he's like, my son points at the damage on his bumper. He's like, well, how do I know that damage wasn't already there? Yeah. Excuse me. So that guy, somebody like that, you're not going to let them off the hook because they're behaving in a way that's a little sketchy, right? I mean, it's always the guys behind the guy that hit you, almost always. I mean, unless they back into you, that's another story. But what I'm saying is that if somebody behaves that way, you're like, dude, give me your insurance right now. And that's kind of what Steven did. He got real firm with the guy. And he's like, all right. So that's why no matter what, we just have to decide in advance, because a lot of times they're not that way. Just like you, they get out of the car, you got out of the car, you're being a rescuer, right? Well, they probably are too. They feel bad. Oh, I'm so sorry. You're going to feel sorry for them, aren't you? So just remember, always get the deets, no matter what. Listen, if it makes you feel better about this accident, go ahead and minimize it. Oh, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. We'll work it out. It'll be okay. If you want to do that, hey, go for it. But just make sure you get their insurance details right. So may not even need them. So you're still a good guy. You're still a good person. If you don't need to get those, that's okay, but you got them, right? So you are a good human, and they are too. Or are they? Like I said, in that story I told you a while ago, maybe they're not. But either way, you won't find out. And you know, sometimes for them in the heat of the moment, things can change. I saw an accident right outside our house. We live on kind of a dead man's curve area. Clearly, the guy was speeding around the corner. I mean, it was just, there's no question. And then I just have occasion to talk to the neighbor that got hit by this guy. And it's a couple of years ago. And he goes, you know, that guy sued us as if it was my wife's fault. And he said, there's no way. So, you know, perceptions can change, but now you've got the insurance. And so because you just don't know how much it costs, that's why we say always get the insurance, or at least get their insurance information, even if it's just a door ding and you're like, you know, those are $100, $200, wherever they are. Is it? Because some door dings may not be able to be painted by our method. They might have, not painted, but repaired by our method. Or they may be more expensive than you think to repair. So just remember, thank you for watching. Always get those deets, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.